Hello everyone, I hope you have a great day. Today we are looking at some new malicious compliance stories. I hope you enjoy them. If you like the video, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps the channel to grow. And now let's start with the first story, shall we? The first story is called I Had to Rework Your Sale. I worked at a hardware store and was recently given a promotion to a position that gets bonuses if sales goals are met. Being the new kid on the block, some of my coworkers decided that I was the person to constantly pawn work onto. Normally, I'm happy to help out my team, and customer needs are important to me. But they would have me put in a lot of legwork for their own sales. It got to be exhausting, but I finally had enough when one of my sales was sold out from under me by another guy. He said he had to rework the sale in the system. Normally when this happens, you can still give credit to the original salesperson in the system. It was only a 1.5k sale, but he chose to keep the sale for himself. I even had to confront him about it, as he didn't even tell me he did this. He had recently asked me to write up a sale for him again. This had happened several times, but after the previous one I was frustrated. I wrote up the sale, but left it so that I would get credit and walked away with a 5k sale. He never had to rework any of my sales again. The next story is called This is Completely Ridiculous. I work for a company that provides a utility truck, and one of the analytics they monitor is how long the truck stays in place with the motor on. The target number was something like 3%. I consistently was stuck in traffic due to my area being changed to the downtown area of my city, and naturally this was raising my idle percent. My supervisor began constantly badgering me over the raise of my idle percent, about 10 to 12% higher now. After they decided to give me a written verbal warning, I became the most efficient truck no idler in our branch. I brought it down to 0%. Wanna know how I did that? By shutting the truck off at every stop sign, red light, highway stopped in traffic, and drive-thrus, and instantly off when I got to where I was going. Now remember, this is a utility truck that is charging my 2 phones, laptop, tablet, and my various equipment rechargeable batteries. All this juice sucking and no alternator spinning, putting the power back into the truck battery caused it to die. A lot. Now the rules the company had made it forbidden for me to jump the truck myself. So I had to call the company, and they sent out a tow truck to jumpstart it for me. I could do it myself and probably would have, but they are writing people up out here for petty things. Every time I call this tow truck, it takes a minimum of 2 hours for it to show up. I began doing this multiple times a day, every day, until they figured my truck was broken. It goes to the shop, checks out, they give it back, and I kill it again. They end up giving me an entirely new truck, and I start killing that one too. I repeated this process until they gave me the 3rd truck, and the manager calls me to ask what my daily routine is. I go through the basics and add in the whole stop at a red light engine off, stop in traffic engine off. Why the heck are you doing this? My supervisor wrote me up for my idle time being too high. This is completely ridiculous. He tossed my write-up, and I'm guessing talked to the super because I never heard a word about idle time again and I quit caring about it. The 3rd story is called They Did Not Want to Listen. A million years ago I worked for a leasing company. We leased anything from manufacturing equipment to jets, but our bread and butter were computers. One fine day a customer calls in to find the salesman is on vacation. They don't like that, not one bit. And after being told that no, they will not be getting the number to his hotel in Aruba, they are passed on to Tommy. Tommy was the new guy, but in a good way. A customer would ask for something. And Tommy would spend 2 days reading white papers, benchmarks and calling vendors to find the answer himself when there was a guy fully conversant in that technology 2 cubes away. Anyway, the customer wants 16 workstations in a hurry. They don't care how much it costs, but they need them as soon as possible. Tommy tells them he'll call back in an hour, he needs to speak to the vendors. Vendor 1 will take 3 weeks at least, they are out of stock. Vendor 2 will take 2 weeks and cost 20% more, since they will have to upgrade existing systems. The manufacturer company themselves quote 3 weeks. Tommy, for the first time in his life, remembers we had a former executive from the manufacturing company on staff. He calls them, begging for a contact that might make it faster. How about today? We have 20 of them in the warehouse. Sure, they are supposed to go to another customer, but that won't be for another 2 months. We can play some games with serial numbers on the lease after the replacement comes. Tommy thanked him and called the customer back. It's been almost 2 hours. Next time, don't promise a deadline you can't meet. Yeah, I know, and I'm sorry. I had to work pretty hard to track down what you need, and well, I've got some good news and some bad news. You called vendor 1? Yep, they can't have them to you for 3 weeks. Did you call any other vendors? Yep, vendor 2. They want a markup, but can have it in 2 weeks. I also spoke with... What about the manufacturer? I called them too. They also want 3 weeks. But we have? How much of a markup does vendor 2 want? 20%, but that doesn't matter because... Go ahead and order them. You haven't even heard the... If I never hear another word out of your mouth, it will be too soon. Just get it ordered, and I expect paperwork by 8 AM tomorrow. The customer paid an extra $250,000, plus interest and fees, and the guys in service got an extra 2 months to play. With the reship delays on the order, they didn't get their machines for 4 weeks. The next story is called Belt Problems. Several years ago, I worked for a mediocre company to buy electronics from. I'm a simple man, and I care very little for how I dress. The only thing I ask is that I'm allowed at least a tiny bit of personal expression. I worked in the mobile department for 3 years. I had already had a couple of years of experience at a certain shack full of radios and was a local cellular guru. I trained everybody in my department and was the regular go-to man for a certain squad of geeks when it came to anything that touched a cellular network. Managers came and went, assistant managers came and went, until Emily. Emily was about my age, young, and came in with a mindset that she was a go-getter and knew all about everything cellular. On several occasions, co-workers came to me instead of her for questions. I had to fix a few of her mistakes. And she would argue with me on processes that I tweaked because they didn't work otherwise. It was at this point that she, a die-hard rules girl, had decided that she hated me, so she began nitpicking my wardrobe. First, it was my boots. I like work boots. They have ankle support and she had taken away our ability to sit during the day. So I needed comfy shoes. They were not good according to the dress code, as they were not black. Okay, well, that's fine. I switched to black shoes, occasionally forgetting whenever she had a day off. Then she committed a grievous sin. She attacked my belt. Belts were required by the dress code, and they were required to be black belts. My belt was a black belt with Deadpool logos all around it, because I'm a die-hard Marvel fan. I'm giving you a warning about that belt. Dress code says you need to wear a black belt to work. It is a black belt, it's just got a logo around it. Well, it needs to be all black. Nowhere in the dress code does it say that. It technically says it's up to the GM's decision. Besides, what about coworkers 1 to 5 who all wear patterned belts? This is my decision and I say you need a black belt. So, of course, I go ask every other manager in the store. Not a single one of them cares, especially because we live in an extremely liberal city where personal expression tends to be taken to the extremes. I finally asked the GM. He shrugs that he has to answer such an asinine and pointless question and indicates that he doesn't care. I helpfully mention this to Emily. Well, I spoke to the GM, and while he doesn't care personally, he said he leaves the decision up to me unless you wanna go to corporate about it. Well, she knows that corporate is a sluggish and useless entity, so she leaves me there, smugly glowing over my perceived defeat. I do believe you all waited long enough for my malicious compliance. So, while corporate is a slow and useless entity, parts of it are actually surprisingly helpful. As it just so happened, our store had been selected as a model store for the upcoming Black Friday holiday. Weeks of planning and reorganizing and laying out all got crammed into one stress-filled week as corporate was going to visit. Now, I cannot even begin imagining giving a crap who the vice president of whatever giant company I'm working for is. There are so many layers between me and them that there isn't any situation in which I could imagine myself caring about this person who gets paid to sit around while plebs like me do all the work. Unless you're someone who believes that the entire future lays in that company. Unless you're someone with that weird obsessive ambition to move into management and retail as a life goal. Unless you're someone like Emily. The fateful day comes and everything is going just as scheduled. I'm wearing my Deadpool belt that I've already been written up for 3 times, watching as this supposedly very important person rolls into the building. Immediately he's swarmed by every worker with an even mildly brown nose. Now, before this, I had been getting dead glares from Emily like crazy. She knows I'm up to something and has already promised to write me up again once the vice president has left. Midway through the lab around the store, they are right in front of my section. That's when I take Emily's advice to heart. I walk up to the crowd of managers, elbow my way through to the vice president. "Hey, Mr. Vice President, do you mind if I ask you a brief question?" Now, keep in mind, this man is looking at me as if a rat or other such vermin, pleb, has attempted to communicate with him. This is not someone who can really remember the last time he's been addressed by a commoner such as myself. Go ahead. So lately, I've had some disagreements with Emily. I point at her, about the dress code with the belt. The dress code says to wear black belts, but doesn't specify entirely black belts. Being as my belt is primarily black and adds a little personality to my uniform, I believe it to be fine for me to wear. But despite agreement from all the other managers here, Emily insists on writing me up for wearing it. What's your opinion on the matter? The vice president glares at me and Emily. I don't care, seems fine to me. Thank you. I leave the group. Emily's face is red enough that my colorblind butt can see it, and the other managers sigh and forge on with the tour. Yes, I got her talking to by the general manager. But at this point he couldn't afford to lose anyone pre-Black Friday. And the issue got forgotten after the insanity of the holiday. From that point on, I was allowed to wear my belt. The last story is called "That is Disgusting." I work in a fast-paced healthcare environment where every minute counts, and I have both male and female coworkers on my shift. We have lockers with opaque doors where we are allowed to store our things. When I'm in the office area, I leave mine unlocked for easy access, and I've started keeping a box of tampons in my locker. I've told my female coworkers if they are in a hurry and need a tampon, they are welcome to just open my locker when it's unlocked and I'm in the office and take one no problem. I got called into my boss's office the other day. A male coworker of mine complained that me keeping tampons in my locker was disgusting and he hated that he could see the box whenever my locker was open. My boss, a male, told me that some men were really sensitive to this type of thing and that I should try hiding them in a different type of box so I wouldn't offend my coworkers. I asked what the point was, because my coworkers would see someone reaching into a crackers box and taking out a tampon instead of food anyway. My boss got all huffy and told me that it was for the best and I needed to do it. So I thought, well, fine. I made a new cover for my tampon box. It said Mother Earth's bloody nutrient bars with extra gooey nutritious filling with a photo of a bloody bathtub and placed it onto the box. That was 2 days ago. Today I saw the male coworker open my locker. He was trying to be sneaky. He paled when he read the box and got all angry. Later I received an email from my boss that my cover wasn't funny and that I needed to take it down. So I emailed our HR person a copy of the email, as well as a summary of what happened and photos of the lockers, the box and the cover. I also suggested that the male coworker sit somewhere where he didn't have a direct line of sight to my locker if it really offended him so much. She thought it was freaking hilarious and said I followed my supervisor's instructions and so I was fine. Nothing else has been done yet, and I'm mostly angry that my time was spent on something as stupid as this and not on patient work. Thanks for watching the video, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content. Let me know what you think about the stories in the comment section below. Have a great day. Bye bye.